The atmosphere is electric, the pressure is mounting, and game week has finally arrived. What happens when a coach faces the ultimate test, taking his team on the road for their season opener? The answers might surprise you, and they reveal everything about what it takes to build championship-level preparation. Good morning, and despite being crunched into this smaller space than usual, the energy is palpable. You can feel it, that special feeling that comes with game week, something that extends to everyone involved, including all of you here today. There's genuine excitement about this final week of preparation, and the team is positioned exactly where we want them to be. The injury situation continues to improve nicely from last week, with those nagging dings healing up as expected. It's time to play, time to see where we truly stand as a program. This team we've built is about to face a tremendous test going on the road against Florida State. And frankly, that's exactly the kind of challenge we've been preparing for. From a coaching perspective, we know we're facing a formidable opponent. Head coach Norvell and his two new coordinators have created quite a puzzle for us to solve. There's been an enormous amount of film for our staff to pour through, studying every detail of their approach. We understand that these coaches have done exceptional work throughout their individual careers, and now they're bringing that collective expertise together. We have no illusions about the quality of test we'll face this weekend, which is why our staff has invested countless hours into preparation last week, and that intensive work will continue right up to kickoff. What makes me particularly proud is how our staff and team have maintained laser focus on keeping the main thing the main thing. They've truly embraced taking it one day at a time, which isn't just coach speak, it's been their genuine approach. There comes a pivotal point in preparation where you have to shift from being so intensely focused on the present moment to starting to think bigger picture, and that time is now arriving. This week should feel different, and I believe it will. When it comes to the injury report, beyond jam, Jaeden Roberts remains questionable for this game. He's still working through the concussion protocol and that entire process, though I'm encouraged to report that he's progressing steadily. We'll continue monitoring his situation closely and see where things stand as we get closer to game time. Speaking of the offensive line adjustments, what we've witnessed from that first team unit, particularly with Gino stepping in for Jaeden, has been impressive. Gino was here a year ago, battling for position, and we threw him in action for a couple series per game where he consistently performed at a high level. I've often referred to him as our Swiss Army knife, a guy who can go out there and handle multiple responsibilities effectively. He brings tremendous value to our program, and there's genuine confidence not just from myself, but from everyone on the offensive side of the ball who believes in his capabilities. Gino has done an outstanding job, and honestly, we haven't skipped a beat with him in there. He was competing for that starting position all along anyway, so this isn't some dramatic shift in our plans. What I particularly appreciate about Gino is his energy. When you get to know him as a person and player, there's something infectious about his approach that you really come to value. He adds that unique energy to our offensive line in his own distinctive way. Regarding our coaching staff deployment on game days, Ryan Grubb will be the only assistant coach in the booth this year, compared to having two coaches up there last season when we had Sheridan up there as well. My preference for having most of our staff on the field comes down to the evolution of our support system. We now have some really high-end, quality offensive and defensive analysts that we trust implicitly. There's several guys who will be up in the booth with those coordinators, individuals who have worked together with these coaches for extended periods. With Coach Grubb specifically, he'll have Mitch Dan and Tyler Hughes working alongside him. And these aren't just relationships he's built. I've worked extensively with them as well. There's a tremendous level of trust that exists in these working relationships. Being on the field with our players represents an important piece of our philosophy, and as long as we're receiving all the information we need from our booth personnel, that connection works perfectly. The other significant element that changed our approach starting a year ago is the integration of iPads, allowing us to see everything on the field in real time. I can access all the information I need right there on the sideline. Maybe not in that exact moment when something happens, but we can quickly understand why something occurred, whether it was good, bad, or somewhere in between. We can make those necessary adjustments by reviewing video footage that provides both wide-angle and end-zone perspectives, giving us as clear a picture as anyone could ask for. This capability allows us to make those crucial adjustments on the field directly with our players, which is why I believe it's so important for our coaches to be physically present with our guys. That's exactly why you see more coaches choosing to stay on the football field rather than retreat to the booth. When you're breaking in a new quarterback and integrating new players along the offensive line, especially doing so on the road in your season opener, having an experienced presence like Parker at center becomes invaluable. Now, I want to be clear about Ty. I understand this is his first official start, but given how long he's been in college football and the experience he's accumulated in various situations, he's got several games under his belt in different capacities. It doesn't feel like we're throwing a completely inexperienced player into the fire. Maybe it feels that way from his perspective, but I have tremendous confidence in him and his emotional maturity. He's reached a point where he can take this kind of pressure in stride without it becoming overwhelming. When you combine that with Parker's leadership, both guys serving as team captains, and the way they infuse energy into our entire team while maintaining their own composure, you get a picture of why I feel so confident about what Saturday will look like. Parker running the show, with Ty working hand in hand with him, creates exactly the kind of leadership dynamic you want in crucial moments. Looking at road game preparation more broadly, one of our primary points of emphasis compared to last year is starting fast. You cannot afford to dig yourself into an early hole when playing on the road, because it becomes exponentially more difficult to climb out. The crowd rally behind the home team. The momentum shifts dramatically, and suddenly you're fighting an uphill battle on multiple fronts. Starting fast comes down to execution, which ultimately comes down to preparation and the quality of work happening on the practice field tomorrow, Wednesday, and Thursday. It's the same fundamental principle we always preach, but the urgency becomes amplified in road environments. You need to give yourself that extra level of momentum. Not that we lack belief in our abilities, but there's something powerful about seizing early control of the game's rhythm and energy. Just as importantly, you're taking that momentum away from your opponent, which becomes especially critical in an environment like Tallahassee, where we know the atmosphere will be electric and challenging. Regarding Dijon Lee's development, when Kane mentioned that we view him as a starter, that comment perfectly captures how comfortable we feel putting him on the football field. There's a maturity that certain freshmen possess. We saw it with Zabian Brown last year, and Dijon has demonstrated that same quality consistently since his arrival. Even during spring ball, when he was still learning what he didn't know, there was something special about his presence and natural confidence. It's not about physical attributes or measurables. It's about that intangible confidence to compete at this level. He's maintained remarkable consistency from his very first day here during winter workouts all the way through to where we stand today. Every time we've added more responsibility to his plate, he's risen to meet that challenge. That's why we feel completely comfortable putting him in significant situations on Saturday. You're correct that the last time I was part of a team opening on the road was back in 2013, though it was actually Eastern Illinois we played, not Southern Illinois. Looking back on that experience and others like it, what I draw upon is the understanding that any big road game requires special preparation, but the season opener carries unique significance because it's always the biggest game. It's the next one. Getting the season off to a strong start carries enormous importance, which amplifies the magnitude of every aspect of preparation. What this kind of scheduling does is create urgency throughout fall camp. Playing games of this caliber in these environments keeps the focus of fall camp elevated throughout the entire process. You know you have to be at your absolute best because your opponent will be operating at that same level. We understand Florida State has plenty they want to prove, and they're going to want to open their season in spectacular fashion. Our guys have done an exceptional job focusing on ourselves, concentrating on what we can control, and staying present in each moment of preparation. I know those sound like coaching cliches, but these players have genuinely embraced that approach in meaningful ways. Moving into year 2 of our program, the changes I've noticed that give me confidence this team can handle big moments come down to consistency in practice and consistency and how players handle each other during challenging moments. This doesn't just apply to what happens on the practice field. It extends to every aspect of their interactions and relationships. There's genuine accountability to each other throughout our locker room. When something isn't quite reaching the standard they know is expected, and I'm not talking about anyone doing something wrong, just not quite hitting that championship level. The players who understand our culture make sure newcomers understand what that level should look like. There's tremendous investment visible in everything they do, and that investment drives the consistency I mentioned earlier. Even when we've had practices where there's more on their plates, school starting, additional responsibilities, you can feel when the dynamic is different because they need to get to class rather than putting in their usual extra work after practice. But ultimately, these guys' investment has remained at an extremely high level. When there's a rep or two in practice that doesn't go their way, those individuals and their position groups come together after practice to put in extra work. If someone missed a pass, they're staying late to get that route exactly right. These players want success desperately, and their actions consistently support the level of work required to reach their goals. Regarding offensive line depth beyond Geno's potential replacement of Jaeden, we don't have anything approaching the intentional rotation we utilized last year. Last season, we were very deliberate about rotating Geno and our right tackle position, but we're not planning anything to that extent this time around. That doesn't mean we lack confidence in our depth players, but with this particular group, I'd prefer to establish some continuity and build momentum with our primary unit. I still have vivid memories of last year's opener when Parker's helmet flew off on the very first play and Proctor got injured during pre-game warm-ups. By the second play of the game, we had two completely new faces on the field. Hopefully we'll have better luck this year when it comes to those unexpected situations. While a player here and there might see action for a series, it won't be the intentional rotation strategy we employed 12 months ago. This is the unit and group we want to see handle the majority of snaps on Saturday. The preparation is complete, the foundation has been laid, and now it's time to see what this team is truly capable of achieving. This is where championship dreams either take flight or face their first real test. Don't miss a single moment of insider analysis and behind-the-scenes coverage. Subscribe to our channel for exclusive content, detailed breakdowns, and all the latest updates as this season unfolds. Hit that notification bell and join our community of dedicated fans who demand the complete story.